right, guys, homemade bacon. Takes a little bit of time, but is super easy to do. That's yummy goodness right there. Okay, y'all, so the step number one for the best homemade bacon is going to be to start with a good product. We like to use our Prairie Fresh Prime pork bellies. So we've got a half pork belly here. You can buy halves or wholes. I've done it with both. I like to cut this up into about 2.5 or 2.25 pound sections. So that's what we're going to end up doing today. But when we're looking for a pork belly, what we're looking for is the good striations in it for the fat. So you're looking for all these the little white strands that you see running through the red. It's called marbling. The more marbled the piece of meat, the more fat it's going to have running throughout it, and the more flavorful it's going to be. All right, so we've got our 2 sections of pork belly here. So they're roughly going to be around 2.25 pounds a piece. That's about the just right size for me to go into a Ziploc bag. I've tried doing bigger sections, and I just don't think that the cure gets around the whole section of pork belly, and it doesn't get seasoned as well. That's just my tip after trying it. So I like cutting the whole pork belly up into 4ths or the half pork belly into half. It's just better for the ratio. So you'll get your Ziploc bag here. I have all of our products here that we're going to use out. It's super simple. We have 4 tablespoons of paprika, 2 tablespoons of the red pepper flakes. Don't worry, it's not going to make it spicy. It's just helping with the flavor profile. At the end, we'll talk about it. You're going to rinse off all those pepper flakes. So don't freak out. It's not spicy bacon, I promise. Next, we're going to have, this is Prague powder number 1. I bought this off of Amazon. You can also buy it over in the section of your grocery stores, probably that where the canning good items are. A little goes a long way. So this has lasted me quite a while. So you have 2 teaspoons of that Prague powder. That's going to help with that curing process. Then we're going to do 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Add a little bit of sweetness there. Then we've got our kosher salt here. The kosher salt it's different than regular table salt, so don't think you can just replace it. Use the kosher salt. It's a thicker, coarser grind salt, and it's also like a flatter salt used a lot for curing different types of meat. So coarse kosher salt here, that is going to be 1/3 cup. And then last but not least, we've got our maple syrup. So use grade A maple syrup, and we have a 1/2 cup of that. I'm going to pour that into my Ziploc bag. Then I'm just going to take it and I'm going to mush it up. Get it all good and mixed up. Break up any chunks that you might feel so that it's nice and evenly mixed. Can also take out any frustrations you might have while you're doing it. All right, once we have that nice and mixed up, then we're going to take our pork belly. Oh, and let me show you some of this. Look at the meat. Look at that. That's going to be awesome bacon right there. It's going to be beautiful, beautimous. Let's put it in our bag. Okay, I'm stuffing it all the way down as far as it'll go this way. I like to have them horizontal versus vertical. They usually fit in perfectly. I press all the air out of my bag, and then I'm going to take it and I'm going to work the whole curing mixture all the way around the pork belly. So I'm just kind of mushing it, manipulating that cure around it where I want it. This is another step that I like that the smaller cut for, because if you did the half of a pork belly in a Ziploc, which does fit in a Ziploc, it's just so tight, it's hard to manipulate that cure all the way around. All right, so got it all good and mashed out here. All right, got that one ready to go. I already have the mixture mixed up in our second bag here. We're gonna do the same thing for our second piece. All right, now that we've got our cure evenly mashed all the way around the pork belly in our bags here, and we've got all the air pushed out, now comes the waiting game. So curing bacon is not, or pork belly is not difficult to do, it's just time consuming. So now these guys are gonna go into the refrigerator, and they're gonna be in the fridge for anywhere from 7 to 10 days to cure and set up. So what we're gonna have to do is once a day, we're gonna take our pork bellies and we have to flip them over. Okay, like I set a reminder on my phone because I don't know about you, but I'm busy and I forget. So I set it for about 8 o'clock at night. It'll say flip pork belly. So then at least, oh yeah, that reminds me. I flip them the same way. So you'll see that I have the zipper side up on the bag here. Okay, like if I'm gonna start with it that way, they're both gonna be that way. Then when my notification goes off to flip them, I'm gonna flip them both where they're Ziploc side down. It just is a way for me to tell that yes, I flipped both of them and I'm doing something different each day. It's just a way to keep track. So let's take these babies and put them in the fridge. I'm gonna set them in here right like that. And then we'll flip them once a day for the next 7 to 10 days until they start to harden up. All right, guys, so we are at the end of the curing stage. Our pork belly is now completely cured. It's been about 9 days, so now we get to move on to the next step, which is the rinsing and the drying. So let's get started. Let me show you how to do that super easy, super quick. I took our pork belly out of the bags. They're harder, they're more stiff and firm than they were when we first started. That's how I knew every day as I flipped them, I could feel them firming up. All right, so now we're gonna take some water. We're gonna rinse off any of that curing mixture and salt off of them. Then I'm gonna set it over here on a rack. I made sure to go ahead and spray the rack. I'm going to take the paper towel and just kind of blot it a little bit dry here on the top. We're gonna set this cookie sheet in the refrigerator uncovered for the next 2 days. Okay, during that time, we want the air circulating around it and drying it off and drying it out a little bit. So that takes about 2 days time period. So I'll put this in the fridge and we'll come back in 2 days. So here we are at the end of the day 2 drying phase, and I have our pork belly here on our rack. They're nice and dried out, as you can see there. We've got our Myron Mix and Bark smoker running at about 200 degrees. We're gonna set them on there just like this, and we're gonna cook them for about 3 hours or until the internal temperature on the pork bellies reaches 150 degrees. So let's get them on. All right, guys, we are on the final day of our homemade bacon, where we finally get to reap the benefits of this beautiful homemade bacon. Super excited. Took about 2 weeks time period, but so well worth it. So I took the bacon off the smoker, let it come back to room temp. I just put it in a Ziploc bag in the fridge overnight. I think it's easier to slice whenever it's nice and cold. So took it out, put it on my slicer, and here's what we got. Now let's take a look. Check that out. It's beautiful. So the way I like to cook my bacon is I put it on a rack on a cookie sheet. I'm gonna lay it out. Putting it on a rack kind of raises it up from the grease a little bit, and that's just my favorite way to do it. Then it lays out nice and flat, doesn't get all wrinkly, makes great for sandwiches or burgers. And then I'm gonna put it on our smoker today, or you can do it in an oven, about 300 or 350 degrees either way. Today we're gonna roll at 300 because that's what we've got our pellet grill set at. Usually it takes about 35 to 45 minutes, so just kind of check it and see, and then that'll depend on what kind of doneness you like. I like my bacon to be crispy, so I'll probably take it closer to the 45-minute mark. So I'm gonna get this bacon laid out and get it on the pit. All right, guys, homemade bacon takes a little bit of time, but is super easy to do. And check out the finished product. Oh my goodness, it is absolutely fantastic. Let's try some here. That is the best bacon you will ever eat. It beats store-bought bacon hands down. That's fantastic. I don't know that I'm going to share that one. I think we got a bacon snatcher.